I'm Bambi Francisco for Vader News with this segment of Lessons for Entrepreneurs, and I'm speaking with Chris Boone. He's the president and CEO of Vesuvi, an image-based search engine. Chris, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You have been an investment banker and in the finance industry for most of your professional career, and you moved over to become the CEO of a startup company about 1 year old. So you probably have a lot of interesting lessons that you've learned now that you're in operations. Can you share 3 pieces of advice or lessons you've learned as an entrepreneur?
Sure. Okay, so 3 pieces of advice that I would offer. First and foremost, you have to solve a significant market problem. So necessity is the mother of all inventions or all creations. The first thing you have to be able to do is to make certain that whatever it is that whatever business you're going after is solving something that is in tremendous demand or is needed in the marketplace. At Vesuvi, as an example, we've seen a number of folks in computer vision that have had amazing technology, amazing algorithms that the marketplace just doesn't need or simply doesn't know how to value. The second piece of advice that I would offer is to make certain that there's a business behind that necessity. I think back to, for example, the Apple Newton when that came out years ago, right? Fantastic technology, truly innovative, but for a number of reasons did not take off in the marketplace. A few years later, you had the Palm Pilot, which did take off, which was almost a duplicative invention. The third thing that you'd have to do...
But is that timing, or was that the model?
That was a little bit of everything.
Okay.
The product was extremely expensive. It was very large, very heavy, didn't have a great user interface. There were a number of challenges with the Apple Newton.
Right.
But again, there wasn't a significant enough business need in the marketplace.
So there's business need, not so much business model, but a business need.
It's both business model and business need
in
that particular case. So you have to make certain you have a business model that aligns to that business need. And the third piece of advice is don't be greedy. And I say that to both the entrepreneur looking to sell or raise capital for his or her company, but I also say that to the investor. There has to be enough money for both sides to make it a worthwhile partnership. And do understand that it is a partnership for the next 5 or potentially 7 years before there's an exit. So you want to make certain that whoever is with you has enough stake in the game that it's going to be valuable for everyone.
It sounds like you've had an experience with that third lesson. So can you elaborate a little bit in terms of what happened there? Somebody was too greedy in a particular situation, and what was the consequence of that?
Sure. So I've seen both sides of that coin. I've seen where the investors have gotten extremely greedy, finding a fantastic technology, but as they continued to raise the companies that they invested in continued to raise additional rounds of capital, the management team got so diluted that there was no incentive for them to stay. And when bigger opportunities came along, that intellectual capital left with those individuals. And when that happened, there just wasn't enough there to sustain that company. So what was supposed to be a fantastic investment behind an amazing technology flopped when the investors got too greedy. Conversely, I've seen management teams who weren't willing to offer enough of the company to make it an attractive investment opportunity. And at the end of the day, the investors are about really a couple things, returns, but more specifically IRR. So how quickly can they take that invested dollar and have a significant return that's going to make it an attractive opportunity?
If you have a technology and you're a founder, what percent should you expect to own after 3 or 5 years? After 3 years? That's a tough question.
So the first thing that I would ask an entrepreneur is, if you want to be Bill Gates, do you know how much Bill Gates owned when the company went public?
How much?
He had 41%. The days of an entrepreneur, of a founder, having 41% of a company at the time of an IPO are long gone. Do not go in thinking you will have 41% of your company. You need to be very realistic that every time you raise capital, and you will need to raise capital, every successive round you get further diluted. But does it matter if you have 5.5% of the company or 5.7% of the company at the time of an IPO?
Right.
I
If
doubt
you get to an IPO.
Or an exit. I doubt the folks at Google would make that argument.
Okay, Chris, thank you so much for your lessons.
My pleasure.
I've been speaking with Chris Boone. He's the CEO and president of Vesuvi. I'm Bambi Francisco.